A quick thank you to the T5 peeps, Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Cat Crab Lobster, DuckMachine, Astraya the Dreamer, Mezec, Feudic Jarl, Casper Arnholtz, and Chaos to Mist. Thank you very much. Humanity's Obsessions, written by the Stabby Brit. Nib was as close to an expert on Darkadians as his species had ever produced, which was why it was so frustrating when he spent half an hour looking over the wreck in the cargo bay, only to announce, "Yeah, this might be Darkadian." "Might be," Yorkshire parroted, narrowing his many eyes at a little blue lizard. "Look, this is an incredibly niche field of study," Nib snapped defensively. "We're talking about a people who went extinct before either of our races had discovered fire. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect a little vagueness." Yorkshire cradled his chin with two of his 6 arms. "At least tell me that it's valuable." Kinda depends on what exactly you have here. I mean, there might be a collector for it, regardless. But if you're hoping for a kind of payday, they'd make a 10-part Galactflix special about. You really want something from the Great Old War. If it's from the New Old War, you'd still be creds in. But if it's from the Old War, it's nothing but scrap. Unless it's got antimatter implosion warheads still in the tubes. The little lizard briefly froze in wide-eyed terror. "You did check the torpedo tubes, right?" "It doesn't have any, at least none that I can see," the spidery salvager answered, prompting Nib to release a breath that he'd been holding. "So, before I go dragging this ship all over the universe, is there any way to tell what it's worth, or where to take it?" "We could ask the archive of all knowledge that was around back when the Darkadians still existed." "You mean the omnicidal supercomputer that thinks all biological life is a virus?" "No thanks, my insurance doesn't cover nuclear annihilation." Nib scratched his ear slits thoughtfully. Suddenly, his little face lit up in excitement. "Oh, I know where to find an expert." "One that won't kill us," Yorkshire cut in. Nib paused. "Okay, I know where we might find an expert. Crawl up into your cockpit and set a course for Sol 3. "You mean Earth?" "Yes, that's the one." "Then just call it Earth, why don't you?" the spidery alien asked as he clambered up to the controls. The Sol system was the capital of the Holy Solar Imperium. They were known for 3 things: not being especially religious, being mostly planet-based, and being a constitutional republic. The origins of the name had been largely lost to time, along with the start date of the lawsuit filed against them by the Divine Star Empire over infringement of intellectual property. At the edge of the system had an orbital tether known as the River Styx. Yorkshire's vessel eased into a port while Nib set about making contact with the local hairless monkeys. He had to admit, Styx was a grand setup. 2 planetoids of almost equal size, tightly locked with one another, had been bound together by a series of towers, making them effectively one world. The rocks were named after ancient gods of death, presumably to ensure cold callers took their business elsewhere. After binge-watching a documentary about comically inept alien invaders who died because they forgot to get vaccinated first, Yorkshire was summoned by Nib, who bounced around the cargo hold with a manic glee. "You won't believe this! I found someone who claims to know everything about the Darkadians." "Not everything about the Darkadians," the human corrected. He was present via hollow materializer, a practice popular across the galaxy, as it was just like being there in person, except you were slightly transparent, and you could literally vanish when it was time to split the bull. The human had a name badge. It said his name was Keith. "So, what do you know about them?" Yorkshire asked. Keith adjusted the holographic glasses. "Well, everything worth knowing about their military, socio-economic status, political aspirations, and preferred brand of fabric softener for the second interregnum of doom. 834103 BASC to 834002 BASC. BASC, before a sensible calendar, Keith clarified. Nib cleared his throat and pointed to the pile of metal occupying the cargo space. "Well, we're pretty sure this is..." Keith did not let him finish. Oh, looks like you've got yourself a ship from the Loyalist Affectionary Revolution. A Hunter Slayer craft, Type 3, Mark II version 1.0. Would you say that tail is light as electric blue or electrum blue?" The second one? Nib offered. Bully! Then it's a D-series. You've got yourself a wonderful little find there, gentlemen. The holographic human promptly bounded up the side of the ship and dropped through the hole in the hull. Pass me a tinker kit. I've got to have a poke about in there. Yorkshire banged on the ancient hull with all 6 of his arms. I hate to be the stereotypical capitalist scavenger here, but is this thing worth anything? Will be when we get it working again, Keith answered. I think I can at least 3 people who would pay top dollar pound for this. As Yorkshire began passing tools to the enthusiastic human, albeit somewhat reluctantly, Nib perched himself nearby and began quizzing him over the thumps and bangs. So how did you become an expert in such a niche aspect of a dead civilization? Got to do something to pass the time between the new series of Star Trek, the human replied. Although this series has gone completely downhill since they recast Kirk with a Martian. Yorkshire leaned in close to his companion as the racket inside the craft increased. I'm starting to doubt this guy actually knows anything about the Docadian technology. Do us all a favor and fire up our scrambler. We'll take our chances with the dog people of Sirius. Give him a chance. He seems knowledgeable to me, Nib protested. Right, and which one of us got conned by that prince from Nigeria on 7? Suddenly, the wreck began to vibrate with energy as great clouds of dust and rust had splattered from every vent along the hull. Eureka, Keith cried, emerging covered in grime from the top hatch. I think I have a towel somewhere, Nib offered. Thank you kindly. I think I've got it working. It was simple, really. I just had to rephase the transphasic altimeter, unphase the multispatial alternator, and dephase the antiphasic indicator. What? Yorkshire gawped at the holographic human, began peering underneath the craft. Oh, and hang on, just need to... There, the neutron flow director. Now to reverse the polarity. We're all spouting gibberish. You can't reverse the polarity on an unpolarized... The spidery scavenger stopped mid-flow as the Docadian craft began to drift upwards, its proud tail fin bouncing gently against the ceiling of the bay. Honestly, it's not me you should be thanking. This is actually a replica ship built by the 3rd undefeated autocracy, just before their defeat in the war with only one battle, which I don't know a thing about. Luckily, I know a guy named Martin who is total nerd about the 3rd undefeated autocracy, 833-912-BASE to 833-911-BASE. So I got him on a Skype call, and he was able to talk me through how to recalibrate the quantum tachyon cells. I guess being friends with a nerd is useful sometimes. I mean, what kind of weirdo spends all his free time obsessing over some ancient empire that died out 1 million years ago, and only stuck around for a single year? Yeah, really sad. Will you be interested in buying this? Yorkshire asked, uncertain he wanted to be in the presence of Keith any longer. The human seemed not to hear him. Oh, speaking of obsessions, I really have to go. The Interplanetary Olympics is on in 5 minutes, and I don't want to miss the synchronized kayaking. You wouldn't believe the things the Venusian Commonwealth can do on an anti-gravity lake. So long. With that, he promptly vanished. Nib stood and watched the millennia-old warship bob gently back and forth, smiling proudly as he'd done the work himself. Well now, I know it was a bit of a detour, but you've got yourself a prize and no mistake. Time to find somewhere to sell it, I suppose. Already did, Yorkshire replied, using his many eyes and arms to operate 3 handheld devices at once. I went on a solar's net and found a message board of people who are set to flip for a hobby. We can leave the ship in a hangar here at port and they'll wire me the money. I also found, he paused to scroll all 3 devices, a networking site for fans of Wobble, my people's national sport, a galactic hitchhiking community who are arguing over the right order to cross the 8 peaks of Ericris, a notification that there is a hot single anthropods in my area, and a literary group who are apparently having a civil war over whether Drakash the Unifier's banner was blood red or bloody red. This can't be healthy, fixating on things with such an intensity. Who benefits from everyone becoming an expert in one little thing that only they know or care about? Well, it fixed your Docadian salvage. Shut it, Yorkshire snapped as he climbed back into his control seat. Get us clearance to launch, Nib. I want to be out of this weird system before someone decides to make fansite out of me. And so the salvage ship boosted clear of the river Styx, turned its nose to a distant K-type star, and hyper-warped out of system with the usual flashy stretched effect and shimmering sparks of light. Its departure was observed by a pair of young humans in matching neon yellow spacesuits. The older of the two lowered his biomagnifiers and said, "Did you see that, Jack? A genuine Ivocorin Arthro booster, Model 4. God, that ship spotting club is going to be green with envy when they find out they missed that one." End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video.